Hello class, today's notes are about combining like terms. This should be a familiar topic for everyone since you learned this in past years of math. But just to get everybody on the same page, let's start with some vocabulary. Starting with variable. Variable is going to be a letter used to represent an unknown value. So in the expression 5x plus 8, our variable is obviously the only letter there, the 8. Okay, another vocabulary word is constant. Since variable goes with varies, which means it can change, constant means something that doesn't change. So when it comes to algebra, the only things that don't change are the numbers. So going back to that same example that I used with variable 5x plus 8, there are two numbers there, so which one is the constant? The constant is going to be the number that is by itself. So the 8. I know the 5 is a number, but that is not technically a constant. So actually, let's add that to the definition. A constant is a number that is by itself. Okay. Next vocabulary word, coefficient. So coefficient is also a type of number, but specifically it is the number in front of the variable. Okay, so same expression as before. If I had 5x plus 8, 5 and 8 are both numbers, but only one of them is in front of the variable. That 5 is the only one that's in front of a letter, so the 5 is the coefficient. Okay, now I have exponent. Exponent is a number as well, but it represents the number of times that a term is multiplied to itself. So for example, the one that you're going to see a lot is just x squared, or x to the second power. So what that really means is that it's x times x. See how it's there twice? Another one, so let's do a number. Let's say 5 to the third power. That doesn't mean 5 times 3. What it means is 5 times 5 times 5. It's there 3 times. Okay, so since this lesson is about combining like terms, we need to know what terms are. So a term is a combination of all the other things we've just learned about. A term is a combo of coefficient, variables, and exponents, separated by either a plus sign or a minus sign. So I'm going to put plus or minus. So if I had the expression that I used above, 5x plus 8, there are two terms. This is one term, this is the second term, because it's separated by that plus sign. If I had a longer expression, so let's do 2x squared plus 5x minus 3x squared plus 8. So my tip is to look at the plus or minus signs. So here's a plus, here's a minus, here's a plus. That separates each term. So now I can count. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. Okay, and let's do that last vocabulary. So it's not enough to be a term. We want them to be like terms. So like just means the same. But what we're really looking at is terms with the same variable and the same exponent. So I'm going to use that same example that I had right next to this. So let's do 2x squared plus 5x minus 3x squared plus 8. So if you look at those four terms, I want it to be like. So if you look at them, the first three all have x's. The last one doesn't, so that kind of already says that's not going to be a like term. But then more than that, they also have to have the same exponent. So this has a squared and this has a squared. So if I were to say which ones are the like terms, it would be this first one and this third one. So same letter and same exponent. Let's look at the examples that are there at the bottom of the page. We have 4. So the first problem says 2n minus 4 plus 3n plus 10. So I want it to have the same variable. This has an n, and the third term has a 10. So those are going to be my like terms, 2n plus 3n, which will give us 5n. But that's not enough. We have to do the other things there. So nothing else has a variable, but I do have some constants. Constants count as like terms. So I have a negative 4, and I have a 10. So what is negative 4 plus 10? That would get me positive 6. So this is my final answer. We did start with a simple one. Let's go a little bit harder. So let's look for some that have exponents now. Always start with the biggest exponent first. So the biggest exponent I see on the second problem is squared. X to the second power, x to the second power. But see how there's a minus sign in front of this one? So we have to do that minus. So 5x squared minus 10x squared. Since the smaller number is first, this is going to give us a negative number. It's going to be negative 5x squared. Now on to the next like term. I have 3x, but nothing else has an x. The other two have x squared. So since it has nothing to combine with, it's just going to stay the same. And it's positive, so plus sign. Same thing with the last thing there. That's a constant. There's nothing to combine it with, so it's just going to stay the same. It had a minus sign in front of it, so it's going to be negative. That's our final answer. Okay, so even harder still. This one has a lot of exponents and a lot of coefficients. Let's start with that m to the 5th power. We're going to look through the entire thing and see if anything else has to the 5th power. That's to the 3rd. Here we go. That one has the 5th power. And that's it. So we're going to combine m to the 5th minus 4m to the 5th because of the minus sign that's in front here. So with these, you have to be careful. I'm going to zoom in a little. Whenever you see a letter that's just by itself, like our first term, we have to remember that there is an invisible 1 in front of it. So when we do our math, it's going to be 1 minus 4, which gives us negative 3. Let's go on to the 3rd power. So I have 2m to the 3rd power. And then the last term says plus 6m to the 3rd power. This one's a little easier because there's no negative numbers to deal with. 2 plus 6 gives me 8. So it'd be plus 8m to the 3. And then last but not least, this is the only term left. There's nothing to combine it with, so we're just going to bring it over. This would be our final answer. Okay, then the last example there, I tried to put one that had different letters in it. So not only does it have x's, it also has y's. But the same rules still apply. You combine things when they have the exact same. So if I start with this first one, x to the 3rd power, which we already talked about has an invisible 1 in front of it, look for anything else that has x to the third power. That last thing right there. And then notice that minus sign in front. So what we have is 1x to the third power minus 3x to the third power, which would give us negative 2x to the third power. I'm going to skip that second term for now, and I'm going to go straight to this one because I'm going to do the ones that only have one letter at a time. Nothing else there has a y by itself, let alone a y to the second power. So that one, since there's nothing to combine it with, is just going to stay the same. Then last but not least, anything with two letters. So I have negative 2xy plus 9x2y. Negative 2 plus 9 gives me positive 7, so 7xy. And there's our final answer. So these are the notes for combining like terms. This will go in your notebook. The assignment for today is a page that like this. It's going to be a joke once you fill it all out. It says, did you hear the one about the acupuncture? The rest of the blanks will fill out a saying. So for example, let's do number 1 together so you can see what I mean. Let's combine like terms. Since this is the only thing that has a little 2 here, that's going to stay the same. The other two things, I have 2m minus 4m. 2 minus 4 is negative 2, so it'd be subtract 2m. We're going to go to the bottom of the page and find that answer, which for us it's the very first one right here. See how it has an I next to it? So for number 1, we're going to put an I in that blank. And you'll keep doing the whole entire thing. 2 of the answers at the bottom are going to be used twice, and it will fill out a saying that completes the joke. And that's the assignment for today. As always, guys, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me in class, or you can email me or send me a message through Remind. Bye.